Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's session from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are on chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And we are going to continue from verses 11 to verse 20. Verse 11. Kayana manasa buddhya kevale rindriyerapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangah tyaktva shuddhaye. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Verse 12. Yuktah karam phalam tyaktva shantima noti naishtikim ayuktah karam kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of his activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Verse 13. Sarv karmani manasa sannyasyaaste sukham vashi navdvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. When the embodied living beings controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Verse 14. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhuh na karam phal sanyogam svabhavastu pravartate. The embodied spirit master of the city of his body does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Verse 15. Nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukritam vibhuhu agyanena vritam jnanam tena muhyanti janatvaha. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Verse 16. Jnanena tu tad jnanam yesham nashitat matmanah tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashayati tatpara. When, however, one is entangled with the knowledge by which nations is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Verse 17. Tad buddhyas tadat manasta tannishtha tatparayanaha gacchante punaravrittim jnanani ridhut kalmashaha. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight onto the path of liberation. Verse 18. Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavi hastini shuni chaiv shvapake cha pandita samdarshina. This is a very famous verse. You will hear in a lot of the classes it gets quoted. It means the humble sages, by the virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Ihaiva tarjita sargo yesham sami sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthita. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Na prarishyate tapriyam prapya nodvijeta prapya chapriyam sthir buddhir samudho brahmavid brahmani sthitah. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who the science of God is already situated in transcendence. So, from verse 11 onwards, we're going to continue today, and here to we can see that same thing is continued as was in up to verse 10. Bhagwan is telling Arjun that the yogis, they abandon the attachment with their bodies, their mind, their intelligence, and even with their senses, because they are going through purification. They are purifying their minds, their existence, sorry, rather. So when you are doing devotional service, you are doing everything which everybody else does during the day. You have a routine, you have a working life, you have a household life, you have your leisure time, you have everything. But you are aware that you have some duty towards lordships, you have to serve them, and you maintain all the activities around that. So this way, everything gets purified in your day-to-day life. So that is becoming Krishna conscious. In verse 12, Krishna says to Arjun that a steadily devoted soul who is doing the devotional service gets the peace, because all the results of his act or her activities are offered to Bhagwan. So this way, peace is automatically attained. Whereas a person who is not in union with God, who is very greedy for the fruits of his labor for himself or herself only, they become entangled, they lose their peace of mind. So getting peace of mind is not very difficult. We only have to understand that everything we are doing or we are able to do is through the help of God, and we have to offer the results of our fruit of our labor as well to him. This way we are not going to be showing any proprietorship on our results. So this way we will not be having any attachment as well, undue attachment rather to say. In verse 13, Krishna says to Arjun that when by your own nature, if you are able to controlling your nature, you are able to control control yourself and control your senses, and then you're able to renounce all the actions. Like we keep repeating that yes, you will be doing all the actions, but you're offering the results to Bhagwan. You're not showing the proprietorship over all your endeavors and all over the results which you got. Then that way you'll be very happily staying inside the 9 gates. The 9 gates this is the analogy given to the body. 9 gates, body is called the 9 gates here because it has got 9 gates: 2 eyes, 2 ears, nose, mouth, genitals, and this way if you count, it's 9. And you'll be doing everything, but still you will not be entangled in anything, and you will be neither working nor causing any work to be done. So a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and the inner activities of the material body, because he's identified his soul with Lord's, because soul is the part and parcel of Bhagwan, and body he understands is from the material nature, which is given to facilitate the actions which are sanctioned by the super soul. So super soul is the Bhagwan within our hearts, residing with our souls. In verse 14, it is told that that the embodied spirit, which is the soul, is the sort of master of the city. city of the body. It does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. So the soul is gently residing there. It is not creating any activity, or neither it is going to induce a person to do any activity, nor it's creating the fruits of activities. All that is created by the modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance, which are there in the 24 hours of the day. Early morning to 10 a.m. it's goodness, mode of goodness prevalent. That's why they say that it's best time to do meditation, whether it's mantra meditation or any kind of meditation where you would like to engage in. And then as the sun rises, the mode of passion takes prominence in the day from 10 a.m. to evening till 6 p.m. Then it's the working time to be productive. And later on it's mode of ignorance from 6 p.m. till early morning. So everything which we are doing actually is possible for us because of the modes of nature. These three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, they are the ones which are making us do different activities, and actually they are controlling our nature as well. In verse 15 it is said that neither the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities, and also that embodied beings are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So our souls are very knowledgeable, but they are covered with the ignorance of the material nature or these modes of nature around us. And as we come to understand our real position, that we are not the body, we are the soul, we are understanding that Lord is the real controller, he is the proprietor, and he's the one who actually gives sanctions to our desires. When he sanctions them, then we are able to perform that activity with the help of the material nature. Don't forget, our body is also made of matter. And this material nature has been provided for us to facilitate our actions in this material world. So when we avoid the bhakti, when we think that no, we are going to be the doer and we are going to be the enjoyer, and we forsake the presence of Lord in the bigger picture, then we get bewildered, and we get the unhappiness, we cause the pain and disharmony to ourselves. Because as a living entity, Prabhupada tells that we are completely dependent in our happiness and distress. And if God gives us mercy and we are able to understand our real purpose of life and go through it properly and understand the teachings of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, then we can easily sail through this life. In verse 16 it is said that one is enlightened with the knowledge by which the ignorance is destroyed, the nations is destroyed. Then this knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So when you slowly come to the path of bhakti, you understand that apart from making a living in this world for the survival, there is another obligation for us in this life, which is the spiritual life. If we take that also on and balance the two very nicely, the material life and the spiritual life nicely, then what happens is we are able to go through this life nicely. And when this knowledge comes to a person, then they can see everything as the analogy is given in the purport, as when the sun comes out, the sun shines there, everybody can see everything clearly. In verse 17, it's told that the intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme. When a person has got all these things fixed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he or she becomes fully cleansed of any misgivings or any confusions they have through this complete knowledge, and they then proceed straight to the path of liberation. Their existence becomes liberated and purified, and you start making progress in this path of the devotion service. Verse 18 is a very famous verse. Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chayvishwapake Cha Pandita Samdarshina. So the humble sage, by the virtue of knowledge, will see with equal vision a learned, a gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, that's an outcast, because that sage can understand that super soul is there in everything around us, in every living entity, whether it's an animal or a human being, whether it's somebody from high class or a lower class, somebody who is very educated and somebody who is not. So they start seeing everybody as Samdarshina. Samdarshina is they start seeing everyone with equal vision, because they can see clearly that super soul is present in all bodies, no matter what, and it is there. It is the consciousness in all the living entities. Verse 19 tells us that those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless and they are already situated in the Brahman. In the Brahman or the Supreme. So that is the sign of somebody who is liberated or who is progressing in the path of bhakti, because their mind, are rightly situated, and they have understood a lot of things which they were not very clear about before. They are not identifying just with the body. They understand if there's any misery happening, it's due to the body. The soul is always happy, the soul is full of knowledge, and soul is eternal. That is a first sign of self-realization. And Prabhupada also said that the equanimity of the mind is also first sign of self-realization, when their mind is equipoised. In verse 20, finally, Krishna says the person who is neither too much rejoicing when they achieve something pleasant, and neither they are very sorrowful when it is something unpleasant happening to them. A person who is self-intelligent and who is not bewildered, who is not illusioned, and who knows the signs of God is already situated in transcendence. These are the qualities of a self-realized or symptoms of self-realized person. They have been described in verse 20. So they are called the person of a steady mind or a sthir buddhi, or self-intelligence. They understand the science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, or the Brahman, which is the Supreme Bhagavan, and Paramatma, which is the localized form of Supreme, which is in each of one of us as Paramatma in our hearts. And Bhagavan, as we know, is the Supreme Person himself. Brahman is actually used interchangeably sometimes in the purpose. Brahman is the effulgence coming from the body of Bhagwan, but Brahman is sometimes given as supreme person as well. But we know Bhagwan is the supreme person, but Brahman, because in Sanskrit sometimes two different meanings are given to the same word, so that's why Brahman is actually the effulgence coming from the body of the Supreme. So when a person understands Bhagwan as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan, then that person understands their soul's position in relation to the God, that they are just a part and parcel of Bhagwan. Their ultimate goal is to serve God and eventually get out of this bondage of death, birth, old age and disease, and serve God in their eternal position. So this is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So we will continue from verse 21 next time, and thank you for joining. We shall continue from here onwards. Hare Krishna, Hare Om Tat Sat.